Hi everyone, and welcome to today's keynote. I'm very lucky to have been a part of every single Oktane, and I'm certainly excited for our very first virtual Oktane. The team has found new ways to deliver a user conference, and I'm so proud of the work that they've done. Whether you're watching live or seeing this on demand, thank you for choosing to spend some time with us. Now, I know that none of this is conventional, and we're all adapting to a new reality of not just remote work, but also remote life. And through this, we're all finding new ways to stay connected. Whether it's through Slack for instant collaboration, Nextdoor to offer to get your neighbor groceries, or Zoom, whether it's for a team meeting, a friend happy hour, or even family conference calls, we're finding new ways to stay close to the people we work with and the people that we love. I've seen that we're all learning from each other during these changing times, figuring out new ways to innovate, to be resilient, and to be successful and happy. And through it all, I've personally found great comfort in knowing that we're all in it together, and there's no team I'd rather be doing it with. With that, I'd like to introduce our first keynote speaker for today. Esther Wojcicki is a journalist, educator, and author of the book How to Raise Successful People, inspired by her experience raising 3 incredibly successful daughters in Silicon Valley. To lead the conversation with Esther, I'm now going to pass it over to Ryan Carlson, Okta's Chief Marketing Officer and our fearless leader.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to what I think is going to be a really interesting chat with Esther Wojcicki. She's joining us here remotely, as we're doing with everybody because of what's happening in the world. Esther, thank you so much for joining us flexibly and remotely. We're really happy to have you.
I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much for this interview that's going to come. And yes, we're all sort of sheltering in our places.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that, especially when it comes to teaching your kids in that environment. But first, I want to start with, many people know of you as a parent of 3 extraordinary children, 3 women who, one is a physician and 2 are CEOs of well-known technology organizations. But I actually want to start with you. You've been a teacher in Palo Alto, an award-winning teacher, I might add, for many years. Tell us your story. How did you get into education? How did you get into teaching?
Well, I always was interested in education. I started out actually as a journalist, and I started out as a major in journalism at UC Berkeley. And what happened is that, as life progresses, I had 3 kids. And with those 3 kids, the question was like, now, how am I going to work? What am I going to do as a journalist? It's kind of tough to be a journalist and have 3 kids because in those days, you had to drive to your job, which happened to be in San Francisco and a long way away. So I thought, hey, what about teaching journalism? That could be an interesting thing. And so I applied for a job at Palo Alto High School, and I got a job teaching actually multiple things: English and journalism and math and a few other things.
Wow.
And turned out, of course, I loved journalism. And it turned out I was good at it. I was kind of shocked. And so that's why I stayed, because I love the kids, I love teaching, and I loved the school. So that's how I ended up in teaching and staying at Palo Alto for 38 years.
Wow, that's excellent. And you're not just teaching at Palo Alto High School. You actually have a big hand in the journalism program there. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. So what I did is I founded this program. When it first started, there were only 19 kids. That was 1984. And then through the years, it grew. And by actually about 1990, it already had grown to about 70 kids. And then it continued to grow. And by the year 2000, there were so many kids that they allowed me to start additional programs. And from 2000 to the present day, we now have about 700 kids and and actually 5 other journalism teachers. So it's the largest and the most popular program in the Palo Alto School District. I'm very happy to say that.
That's excellent. That's really cool. Did you teach your 3 daughters? Did you have them in class?
I tried. They went to the school across town, also a great school, Gunn High School. And in those days, they didn't let the kids transfer from their district or from where they're living. So no, I didn't. I tried to do it at home. I should just try to tell you.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that. The title of your book is How to Raise Successful Children and Happy and Successful Children. And I actually wanted to talk about that potential trade-off. I'm curious, though, raising kids who are happy and raising kids that are successful. Do you ever find that those 2 things are at odds? The things that you would do to make your kids happy may inadvertently affect their chances to be successful. Helicopter parenting, for example, and vice versa. Striving to make your kids successful, do you inadvertently harm their happiness? Do you ever find that there's a trade-off there?
I think there is a big trade-off there. You know, a lot of parents that are trying to make their kids successful, successful means getting into the college of their choice. There is also referring to the parent's choice, I'm sorry to say. It doesn't make your kids very happy. And I think in today's world, well, the world is sort of turned upside down at the moment, so I don't know where it's going to be headed. But in the world that existed a couple of weeks ago, the parents that were helicopter parents were not making their kids into happy kids. They might have gotten into a class or into a school that they thought was, you know, the ideal school. But if you look at any studies, you will find that the kids that are sort of hanging on in a school where they don't really belong or don't really feel they belong, they go to the Ivy League, for example, and they feel like that they're not the smartest kid there. They have more self-image issues than kids who just go to a small private school or a small local school or, you know, just a regular school that they picked. That is more important. Yeah,
that makes a ton of sense. I want to actually talk about the framework and the system that you talk about in your book. You have a mnemonic device for it, an acronym, TRICK, trick. Maybe walk us through what each of those letters stand for and how that system works together.
So it took me a while to come up with that acronym, actually, because people kept asking me, like, what'd you do with your kids? How'd they end up where they are? And then the other question was like, why is your program so popular? What are you doing? Are you giving them like free pizza every day and we don't know it? And so like, why? And then so that's what I started with when I was writing the book. And the question was like, how did I do it? And then with help from my students, actually, I realized that one of the most important things I was giving kids was trust. I trusted them. And the whole system, nobody in the system actually trusts them. The schools don't trust them. You know, the test, you don't trust them. The teacher, they're afraid of. It's all fear-based. And so that was where I got trust. The kids said, you trust us. I was like, oh, really? And then I thought back to my own children. Oh, yeah, I trusted them. I taught them a lot of things early, and then I trusted them to do it. And then respect goes along with trust. You can't really trust someone unless you respect them, and you have to respect their ideas. And then the last three parts of the acronym is independence. So when you trust somebody and you respect them, you give them some independence, you collaborate with them instead of dictating. And then if they make a mistake, which is inevitable, people always make mistakes, you treat them with kindness. So that's where that acronym came from. And this is what I think belongs in every classroom. And especially now in the coronavirus epidemic, if the teacher doesn't trust the kids to do the work that they have suggested, it'll never happen. So it gives us an opportunity to see how this acronym actually will help promote education in this time of crisis.
That's great. So trust, respect, independence, collaboration, and kindness. And that's how you interact with the kids that you're raising and the kids you're teaching. I was curious when I was looking into the system, independence and collaboration, are those sometimes at odds? Do you want, somebody to be independent and work on their own versus find somebody who can collaborate, or am I thinking about that?
It's actually interesting. It's a great question because let me tell you, I think that they go together. So the idea is you want to collaborate. There's a common problem or a common goal. Today we have a common problem, how to educate the kids. And so how do you solve that problem? You collaborate with the kids. Like, okay, we have a problem now. We cannot educate the same way that we were going to. Why don't you make some suggestions of what you think are going to be good ideas? So for example, when this problem first arose in my class that I teach with my co-teacher, Rod Satterwhite, we asked the kids, do you want to continue publishing the paper? Because, now you can't be in school. And the universal response from the kids was, yes, we want to do it. And yes, we're going to continue. They are continuing to publish even now, today, while we're all at home using the internet. So I'm really proud of them and I'm proud of their decision. But if I would have said, no, this is how we're going to do it, and you're going to have to do it my way no matter what, I'm sure there would have been no cooperation.
Yeah. That's great. I want to talk about success, talking about raising happy and successful children in technology in Silicon Valley. A lot of our audiences works in technology. Success in that field is often viewed in the form of either somebody founding a new company or somebody inventing a new technology. And anytime you want to build or create something new, the willingness to fail over and over again, to not give up is critical. And so the term we talk about to describe that in children is resilience. And you have to be resilient and not give up and keep trying. If that's true, how do you foster that in children? And I think something that I think about personally is, at what age do you really try to focus on resilience, and how important is that?
So I think resilience is incredibly important. And I think children can start doing it very early, starting at age 2 even. When they try something, you should encourage them to try it. If they fall down or they fail or they have some issue, you say, just get up, let's do it again. We all make mistakes. And so I build this into my program. If you don't write the essay, it's not an essay, actually, it's an article. If you don't write it the right way or don't get the right research, what you can do, just do it again. Do it until you get it right. Revise, keep doing it. And so you build that into the way that you live. So we try new things all the time. That's what we have to do right now. We all have to be really innovative. Nobody has the right tools, unfortunately. We've never seen this happen before. And so I think that for little kids, like you have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. So what do? Well, you let them try things. And of course, you don't want them to try things that are going to hurt them, but try things. And then if they do a bad job, no problem. I mean, if everybody in school did it perfectly to start, well, why would we need school? We don't need. So I think the mindset for a child should be, okay, it's okay for me to try it. I don't mind if I don't do it right the first time. My parents are not going to be upset that we're just going to do it again. Yeah,
that's great. We try to say we only have one rule: you have to try. I use that rule at dinner when I'm introducing new vegetables. That doesn't work very well, but we try to do that.
It eventually will. I like that idea. You have to try one rule. I agree.
That's great. Okay, good. Maybe I'm doing something right. I want to switch gears a little bit. There's a recent book I read. It's called Range. It's by an author named David Epstein. And the premise of the book is that for people who excel in a certain field, counterintuitively, they may be better if they had not specialized early on. Instead, they had experienced a wide range of fields and activities. So the example is, Tiger Woods, greatest golfer, specialized from the time that he was 2 years old, and focused on nothing but golf. But the counterexample is the greatest tennis player ever, Roger Federer, didn't really focus on tennis until he was in his later teens. He played a lot of different sports growing up. And the book makes the case that in whatever field you're in, you should be more like Federer and less like Tiger Woods. I'm curious of your experience as an educator, seeing many different students. What's your take on that trade-off, specialization versus being exposed to a lot of different things?
Well, I'm really glad you brought up that book. I'd heard of it, but now I'm going to read it, and it sounds like a great book. So on the surface, I agree with Roger, and this is why. Just example with my own children, they tried a lot of different things, a lot of different sports, a lot of different music activities, and then they picked the one that they wanted to do. And I just was kind of like the guide. I helped them. In my classes, I don't let the kids specialize in any kind of writing at the beginning. They have to do everything: features, reviews, sports, news, everything. And then once they do all that, then they can figure out what they like to write the best. But you never know what you like to write the best if you don't try it. And it's the same with my own children. And that's one of the reasons why I think that the Tiger Woods model, it doesn't work for a lot of kids because they're miserable. That child, Tiger Woods, he first had a golf club in his hand when he was 10 months old. And so, he had no choice. He had to do it. Okay, well, and he didn't look like as an adult that he was so happy, as a matter of fact. Is that success when you're not very happy? I don't know. I don't think so. So I agree that you want to allow your kids to sample lots of different things and then let them decide what they think is the best, because then they're going to have this resilience you talked about earlier. They're going to want to succeed.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it also kind of leads me to a topic I wanted to talk about, which is, I see many parents, they experience personal stress when trying to have their kids be successful. And if you're going to adopt the model of let your kids try a bunch of different things, some of which they're going to like, some of which they're not, some they may be good at, parents who feel that stress may feel even more because their kids aren't sticking with something or they're not great at something. What advice would you give to parents about feeling the stress internally of whether their kids are successful or not at an early age?
So I think one thing that the parents need to realize is that those kids are pretty smart. First of all, whose DNA do they inherit? The parents? And so trust me, they're going to do it pretty well. And so what they have to step back and allow their child to continue to do what is best for them. I can give you a personal example with Anne. Anne is musically very talented. She was able to listen to something and then recreate it on the piano. That is kind of an amazing gift.
Yeah.
But instead of piano, she decided she wanted to be an ice skater. And I didn't think she had a big gift in that area, but turns out she was pretty good. But anyway, I didn't force her into what I wanted her to do. I let her do what she preferred to do. And today, even, where she is now, she loves to ice skate, even though she is the CEO of a biotech.
That's excellent. That's excellent. With the way that the world has changed, clearly, we're all shelter in place, we're all in our homes. I've seen a variation of this tweet, probably a million times. I may have written it myself. Now that I've been homeschooling my kids or trying to for a week, I realize that every teacher should be paid $1 million a year. And that is certainly resonating with me. For many people who are watching who are parents who are trying to help their kids learn while at home, I wonder what advice you'd have for them.
Well, I'm really happy and honored that you're saying that every teacher is worth $1 million. But I saw a really funny post in which a parent said, I now realize that the teacher is not the problem. And I can tell you, I'm happy that they're realizing this. The teaching profession, everybody goes into teaching to help and to see what they can do to make your child the best they can be. And somehow we get trapped in all these regulations and lack of respect and people worried that you're not doing the right thing. And so it's really, it's a real problem for teaching. As a matter of fact, 50% of the teachers drop out by year 5. And it's not because of lack of money. It's because they're really frustrated with lack of respect and lack of the fact that people don't appreciate them. So perhaps now that could be somewhat of a change in attitude toward teachers. And it would be great for them to be compensated in a better way. I think that the teaching profession, we can all see now that we're all out of school, how important teachers are to the future of a country.
Yeah, for sure. I know that I've written several notes of gratitude to my kids' current teachers and previous teachers, saying I didn't really appreciate it as much as I needed to. So thank you. For parents that are at home, I've seen different pieces of advice of how much should they be focusing on a curriculum, on making sure their kids are spending this much time doing reading versus math, versus just make sure that they feel happy, that they're not scared. What's the balance, especially for people who are trying to do this at home, between making sure you go through the curriculum versus just making sure your kids are happy?
I think the most important thing for the kids to do is to have a schedule. And so if the school doesn't provide a schedule, then you, the parents, should have a schedule. And they should go online and get resources where they can actually learn. And Google, if they type in Google Education, or it's called Learn at Home, there are so many recommendations for kids to go on and do. And also YouTube has the same thing. And there are also something called Common Sense Media. It's a great resource for parents and teachers. They will also have recommendations. So I think the first thing, have a schedule, have something to do with literature, something to do with math, let them watch some movies that you think are appropriate, then have them read something, a book, and then the main thing when they're reading that book or watching a movie, have them do it with a friend so that they can then discuss it. When you do something actively, you remember it. When it's passive, you forget it. So in making them do it with the friend can be online, can be using a Zoom call or, a Hangouts call or I don't care, whatever call, FaceTime. But it's the action that makes the difference. And if you just think about it, you might have learned how to swim when you were 10 and then you didn't practice, right, for 15 years or 20 years, and then you fall in a pool. You still know how to swim because you did it. And so that's what you want your kids to do. That's why you want them to write. I would have them keep a little journal. So it could be a COVID-19 journal. Day 1, I did this. Day 2, I was really bored and I slept or whatever. But having them write about it is really important. And also those journals will be very valuable. There is light at the end of the tunnel, even though it seems kind of cloudy right now.
Yeah, so much excellent advice in there, and I'm glad you mentioned show them movies that are appropriate. I just last night wanted to give my kids a lesson in DNA and genetics and evolution and chaos theory, so I showed them Jurassic Park, and they really liked that.
That's a great choice. There's a lot of great movies out there. They don't have to be recent movies. They can be movies that you watched as a child or that, you can go online. And then also Audible. They've made a lot of books free that you can listen to. So put some headsets on your kids and let them listen to books. It'll be nice and quiet in the house, and then maybe you can take a break.
No, that's great advice too. I love that. Let's talk a second about your 3 kids. 3 successful kids. I mentioned a physician and then CEOs of 2 different well-known technology organizations, YouTube in one case and 23andMe in another. I have to ask, which one of your kids is your favorite?
Well, I don't like to get into favorites. They always want to ask too, which one's your favorite? And so I always say, my response to them is like, okay, here's my hand, all right? So now, here are 4 fingers, right? Which finger is my favorite? And so they're like, they can't. It's like, well, that's what happens when you have children. Which one is your favorite? The only thing I can tell you is that a parent's happiness is dependent on how happy your children are. And your least happy child is basically how happy or unhappy you are. You want all your children to be happy.
Yeah, that makes sense. As we kind of start to wrap up here a little bit, I wonder if you can talk about the role that your own parents played and how you became a parent and an educator and how you viewed all of this.
So my own parents were immigrants from Russia. And they brought with them the parenting technique from Russia. And back in those days, it was spare the rod, spoil the child. And it was also the child is meant to be seen, not heard. And so I did not appreciate these techniques growing up. And so I did not want to recreate that environment in my own children, which is why I created the acronym also, or I created the thought process for all parents. Before you do anything, just remember, are you trusting and respecting your child and their ideas? Are you giving them independence, collaborating and treating them with kindness? Because I think that helps you as a parent be more collaborative. One of the things that teenagers have a problem with is they're always told what to do. And no one likes to be told what to do. So if they have a collaborative parent, they'll be willing to talk about their problems as opposed to run in the room and say, it's all fine. Yeah. So that's, my parents did the best they could in their era. I just wanted to have a different era for my children.
That's great. I've heard it said in a culture of feedback where you want people to be able to give and receive feedback to build up the trust that makes that possible. For every piece of negative feedback you give, you have to give at least 5 pieces of positive feedback to build that trust. And I think that ratio is even more extreme in kids. Building that trust comes from more positive interactions, obviously, than negative feedback. Is that right?
That's 100% correct. And also, I want to say this also applies to the corporate world, because the leaders, the managers in the corporate world, they can change the productivity, they can change the services of their entire company or their department if they treat people with the same philosophy, trusting and respecting. People are miserable in their jobs because they feel that they're isolated and no one appreciates them and likes them. Just like I mentioned with the teachers at the beginning, they feel like no one appreciates me. So, I'm going to stop doing that. And so all corporate leaders should think about this. And there's a book called The $1 Trillion Coach. And that book has exactly the same philosophy. They don't have the acronym, but if you read the book, you'll see that that is what the author says.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think in technology in particular, but I think in every company, you can't be innovative unless you're willing to take risks. And how can you take risks if you don't feel that there's trust there, if you don't feel that there's respect there?
That's right. There has to be trust and respect for you to be vulnerable, because taking a risk means you are putting yourself in a vulnerable position. So that's what it takes. And that's what we need in today's world with this coronavirus. We need more people to do that.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Any parting words of advice or thoughts that you would have for our audience watching here today?
Well, my parting words are, we're going to get through this. And America has always been an innovative, creative country. And we just need more of it now. And we all need to collaborate. There has never been a time where we need more collaboration, taking care of each other, being kind to each other, working together. And even if you don't want to stay home, like I don't want to stay home, I am doing my best to cooperate. And so those are my parting words. We will do it.
Esther Wojcicki, thank you so much. I think that's great advice. I am personally going to use the trust, respect, independence, collaboration, and kindness framework with my kids who are upstairs right now, and thankfully and kindly let us do this recording while we're all sitting at our home, and you in your home as well. Thank you again so much, Esther. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan and Esther. I love that part at the end around how innovation, creativity, and collaboration will help us all get through this, and the importance of taking care of each other. As a reminder, we hope that you join us in giving back to our COVID-19 fundraiser benefiting 3 very important organizations, and Okta will be generously matching donations that are made, so we hope that you participate in this effort. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be back here for more keynotes and more content, starting with our morning keynote featuring Frederick Harris, Okta's co-founder and chief operating officer. We'll also hear from a number of customers and partners during the session, so we definitely hope that you log in tomorrow to tune into the rest of the show. Of course, we also hope that you have a chance to visit all of our great sponsors in the partner pavilions. Thank you to all of our great partners who helped make this week possible. And while you're out there, we hope that you also take a photo of yourself watching Oktane20 live, take a selfie wherever your home office is, and let us know what you think about the program thus far. With that, thank you so much for joining us for our first full day of Oktane20 Live. We know that we've had a lot of fun making this all happen, and we're so grateful that you joined us. Thank you. Goodbye.